Hey family, welcome back to another episode of It's Negotiable, where we discuss all things non-negotiables and negotiables, setting boundaries with people, places, and things that do not serve God's purpose for your life. And speaking of God's purpose, this is part 2 of our sit down with Iasia Sweeting. God's purpose is definitely evident on her life, the calling on her life, the anointing on her life. If you tuned into part 1, we said that this was not the end for her. And we're going to get right back into her journey of being kidnapped, being sex trafficked, being pretty much a prisoner for over 4 years, held in captivity, living in a motel, living in a closet, being force fed, being impregnated by her captor, and being able to sit here on the couch, on the love seat at It's Negotiable. So welcome back to part 2 with Iasia.
Iasia, thank you again so much for sharing this story. I know it's not an easy story to tell, and we don't take it for granted that you grace us with your presence, that I hope that so many people who are watching will be healed, because honestly, that was one of the things that I just really connected, and I said, we got to have her on the show, because ultimately at the end we'll hear about your journey of healing. But we ended the last episode talking about the children that were a result of the abuse, the sexual abuse, and you were explaining to us what your pregnancy was like. So we would love for you to just kind of pick up there. And you ended with, it got a lot worse. So.
It got a lot worse for sure. So I want to start by saying that we don't always think about the beautiful moments that happen in the midst of trauma, because trauma is not just like a flat, horrifying, everyday painful experience. There are tiny moments, or at least in my experience, I can't speak for everyone's trauma, but I can definitely speak for mine. There were moments of joy and gratitude that I would find like little petals in the wind throughout this trauma. And my daughter's being born was one of those, two of those moments. Okay, because when I was a little girl, you could not have told me that my first child would be with a man who took my virginity, and I didn't choose it, and I wasn't married to him, and, it would be in the bathtub in a hotel with no support, no family, no baby shower. You wouldn't have been able to tell me that, because that was the dream that I had for my life. I would be married. I would be 30. I'm 30 now. But I was 19 when my first daughter was born. I didn't get a chance to choose the circumstances. I didn't get a chance to choose her first coming home from the hospital baby outfit. You didn't have those choices. But the fact that she came out with 10 fingers and 10 toes. And
Gratitude, Jesus.
She helped me birth her. Like, even in the womb, she was helping me. When we first realized I was pregnant, after I was having those seizures, and it settled in my mind, oh my God, I haven't had a menstrual cycle in a few months. When that reality settled into my mind and I understood that I was pregnant, I immediately, obviously, I ramped up my escape attempts. I'm trying to get out of that door by any means necessary. I was almost to the point where if we weren't on the 3rd floor, I probably would have tried to jump out the window.
Wow.
But there was this one particular escape attempt because I was getting to the point where I understood I wouldn't be able to really, how far can you run 8 months pregnant? And also,
it's the mere fact that you survived 8 months pregnant in this condition, in this atmosphere. That is wild.
Right.
Wow.
I don't know how. I mean, well, I know how because, you know, the body keeps the score, right? So I'm dealing with health issues now. I just transitioned to home hemodialysis, but I am a dialysis and kidney disease survivor.
Yeah.
So I now know that my body has been keeping a record. And that's just nature. That's how it is. You know, my body has been keeping a record of all of the trauma and the things that I had to endure. But I definitely was trying to escape. This one particular escape attempt, I made it out into the hallway, and I was going down the fire escape stairs. I would have made it out of the exit door. I had one flight of stairs left.
Jeez.
And I would have made it out of the door, and I would have been like in a direct path to be able to run and scream for help and be able to get help. And it was at night, and I was pregnant. And when I got to at the top of that last flight of stairs, the kidnapper, the father, he was right behind me, and he pushed me down the last flight of stairs.
Jesus.
I tumbled down, and the way I landed, I twisted something, or I don't know. To this day, I don't know if I broke the ankle or if I sprained it or fractured it, but it was huge. Wow. It swelled up. It turned purple, and then I was like, I realized that, like, okay, you know, because when he pushed me down, and I fell down those stairs, I hit my head and I woke up back in the room. Right. So once I realized, you know, that my leg or my ankle is broken, and I can't, so the rest of the entire of the pregnancy, they got me crutches from the drugstore, and I have to hobble on crutches just to go to the bathroom. I spent the majority of that pregnancy sitting on at this point, because he would, my normal sleeping space was on the floor, right?
I was just about to ask you, what was your normal sleeping space?
It was on the floor, between the bed and the kitchen, or the little kitchen bar area. So it was on the floor, but once after this escape attempt, and probably, you know, him just feeling bad because knowing that I'm pregnant, he upgraded me to the bed, I guess. So the majority of that pregnancy was spent on the bed, and when I could just use the crutches to get back and forth to the bathroom. Jesus. So basically I was strapped in, and I realized, like, okay, this is going to be.
How did you keep your mind throughout this whole process? Like, how did you keep your mind sane? How did you not just go rogue, go crazy? How did you find peace or any type of calmness throughout this calamity?
Before I was kidnapped, I've always been very spiritual, very in tune with God. Always, ever since a little girl, when I was very, very young. My mom's friend, who was a prophetess, she's now an ordained minister, has her own church and everything. She prophesied over my life and said that I was going to save millions and millions of people, and I was going to be a prophet, basically, and be able to heal the world by, you know, sharing my gifts with the world, and that I was a healer.
Yeah.
And I'm like 4 years old. Okay. So I'm like, okay, what is a prophetess? What is an evangelist? You know? So
You're Pisces?
Not. Almost. I'm an Aries, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm an Aries
I
too.
just missed the Pisces line.
Got you.
But she spoke that over my life. And so I've always taken it very seriously, my journey with God and spirituality and bringing people, into the light and just being able to be a part of people's healing.
Yeah.
Right. But I also understand that how can you heal other people if you have not healed yourself?
Yeah.
Or if you don't have an intimate relationship with healing.
Yeah.
Because I think we are always healing. It's not a destination sort of thing. We're always on the journey to heal, and the journey of spirituality and become closer to God.
Yeah.
I was tearing up hearing the part about, your pregnancy, because I remember being pregnant, and whenever I would go through something emotionally, if I was upset about something, if I was arguing with my child's father or whatever, I remember the pain I used to feel in my belly. And I would just hold on to my stomach, and I'm like, baby, it's okay, like I would try to control my, whatever it was that was making me upset. I tried to control my tears and my body from just reacting, because I was so scared of it hurting the baby. So I can only imagine what you were dealing with, being pregnant, going through that every single day.
Yeah.
And thinking about how it's affecting your unborn child.
Jesus.
But I heard you say something about her helping you birth. And I'm like,
such a powerful, I have to tell her this story, when I see her again. He gave me a book. This is after, the ankle is swollen. I'm not going anywhere, I'm strapped in. He already made it clear there's not going to be any doctors, ambulances, hospitals. So he gave me this book and said, you better read this from cover to cover, because you're delivering this baby on your own.
Wow.
And you need to know what to do. If anything happens, it's going to be on you.
wow.
And that's a heavy burden to place on
Yes.
a 19-year-old
Yes.
who grew up in the church. And my mom told me growing up that when I was a little girl, they told me that a stork comes and delivers the baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So I remember it's a blessing. And this is how I know God was preparing me for my life. When I was 6 years old, my little brother was born. So I wasn't the baby anymore. And I wanted to see him be born so bad. My mom was going into labor, and I had asthma at that time. So I was feeling a little wheezy, but I was like, I played it up, y'all. I did the whole thing. I was like, I have an asthma attack, and I need to go to the hospital with you, Mommy. And so my mom was like, just pack her up, let's go. And so I got to witness the birth of my little brother, because I was having an asthma attack.
Yeah.
But long story short, I'm in the hospital room. She's going into labor. She's screaming and yelling and telling the nurse, the baby is coming. And they're like, ma'am, it's probably gas. And I'm watching the big comfy couch. And my aunt is there, and my mom was like, she said to my aunt when the nurse left out, she said, this baby is coming. They don't believe me, but I feel the baby coming. And so I'm waiting. I got the windows open and everything, because I'm like, the stork is going to be here any minute, y'all.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm waiting for the stork to come and tap on the window, and my mom just stands up on the bed. Like, she's standing up on the bed. And the nurse comes back in, and like my brother is like halfway down.
Yeah.
But my mom is he's crowning, and she's holding his head. And my aunt is helping her, hold him. And the nurse comes in, and they're like, oh my God, you're in labor. And she's like, that's what I've been trying to tell you for this last 3 hours. And so the nurse immediately like grabs me and slides me behind this curtain, because for some reason they didn't want me to see my brother being born. Well, probably because I'm expecting this stork, right? But I'm like, I'm not missing this action. And also my yogurt is out there, so let me just get my yogurt. And so I reach out and I saw his head come out, and I saw his whole body come out. And I was like, that was not a stork. He did not come through the window. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see no birds or nothing. I saw him be born. And I needed to see that because
it prepared you.
Because I was gonna have to use that knowledge from deep. 6 years old.
That is deep.
Yeah, our pastor was just talking about that on Sunday, about how your experience in your right now is setting you up for later.
For real.
You know, he was talking about the scripture in the Bible where Elijah came to the woman and asked her for the bread, and she said, "This is all I have." But what she didn't know was by giving that to him right then and there, later on was her blessing coming, you know? So it's like, man, we don't even realize what God is doing in your right now for your future.
And I mean, I just remember he was covered in this white stuff. And, you know, I now know he's covered in vernix. I got to see him covered in the vernix before they wash everything off. I got to see the cord. I didn't get to see the placenta, but, you know, I learned about that from the book. And also from being, you know, right there having to help the kidnapper's daughter deliver her baby.
When she delivered her baby, had your baby already been delivered? Because I know you were pregnant. You were pregnant.
Yes.
Delivering her baby.
Yes, her baby was born a month before.
Okay.
So it was like, you know, when they say you're gonna learn on the job. It was definitely on the spot training. I'm talking about.
Wow.
I've never been pregnant before, obviously, you know, but she had a daughter already.
I was going to ask
by her father.
Okay.
Her story is very.
Was the baby that she had with her father previously, was that baby with you guys?
Yes.
Oh, so it was you guys were all there together.
Yes. 3 children were born in the room or in the hotel. And she, the sister, she had a daughter that was maybe around 1 or 2 years old.
That was by her father.
Yes, all her children were by her father. So what happened to me happened to her. Her virginity was taken by her father.
Do you and her keep in contact?
She's in prison.
Oh, wow.
She didn't stand a chance. Her dad had been, it was beyond grooming.
Yeah, Jesus.
He had been sexually abusing her from the age of 14. All of her children were by her dad.
Jesus.
Her mind was gone by the time he kidnapped me.
Yeah.
He was her sunrise and sunset.
It was basically her God.
He was her God.
He was her God. Yeah.
So if he would have told her to take a knife and stab me in the heart, she would have done it.
You know what's crazy? Like, sometimes you think life is just so hard for you. Like, oh my God, why is this so hard? Or like, why did I have to go through this? And then when you hear stories about someone like yourself who went through something hard, and you're like, man, the fact that you persevered, the fact that you survived, and not only survived, but you thrived through that. It's like when the Bible says you are made for hard things, you can do hard things.
You can do
hard things. Can do it. You can do this hard thing. And I know it may seem hard right now, but God is so intentional, because even through the hard part of this journey, even through the hard part of this book, it was intentional for you. It was working on your behalf, even when it hurt, even when it didn't feel good, even when it was ugly and gritty and grotesque, it was still working on your behalf.
And you're terrified, and you don't know if you're gonna die giving birth to your daughter.
Jesus.
You know, or even if her child would have died, you know, while I'm trying somewhat to help, you know, deliver the child. If any of those children in that room would have died, I don't know if I would be here, because that was a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
That was a lot of responsibility to place, you know, and even though they weren't my children, you know, like her son being born, I had to catch him coming out of the womb. I was basically his midwife. And I loved him like he was my own.
Wow.
Because you're around these babies every day.
You birthed them.
Right.
You raised
they didn't
them.
ask to be here. You didn't ask for them to be here either.
Yeah.
You know, we're all in the same boat pretty much. You know, the vulnerability, the level of vulnerability, I had the same level of vulnerability as all of those newborns in that room. You know, because
That's so deep.
not,
I had the same level of vulnerability as the newborns in the room. Wow. That is deep. Goodness gracious.
we were all depending on his son. His son, he had a system, the kidnapper did. He stayed in the room. He never left. He was the one on guard making all of the calls, and he decided everything. He was the one in control.
So you and the son never rekindled this quote unquote friendship. You and him never spoke, and
It was like a robot. It was like he wasn't a human being anymore.
you never even got to ask him why.
No,
Did he ever bring anyone else after you?
I don't know.
Oh, nobody in
Because
your...
after me, no, because
I should
everybody's
say-
in prison
I
now.
should say during you. During you, was there any other young women that came? Okay.
And that's why I always let people know it was not forced prostitution, thank God, because those stories, you know, I work with women and girls
Yeah.
who have those stories.
Yeah.
And you guys think I'm strong, you know.
Jesus.
It was horrifying. It's the same level of pain, but the trauma from multiple different men is different, so different from the same. It's you know, when you have the one devil versus
Yeah, I was
the
gonna say because
world.
it's really a spirit. So you have one spirit, and then other girls have multiple spirits
Right.
that they have been intertwined with. Those are multiple different stories, multiple different energies.
Exactly. So I'm blessed to be here because I fight for them, because some of them are like his daughter. Like I said, she was gone. She was gone before I even got there.
I have to say, your level of gratitude is so amazing. To sit here and say, I'm blessed to even be here. Like, you're gracious.
Thank you.
Wow.
So I want the people to hear this level of gratitude goes beyond what we hear right now. And I want us to get there because I heard a quote that you said, and I'm not going to say it yet. I'm going to let us get to that part. But it was what made me go, I got to get on the phone with her.
Really?
Because it was something that I feel like would have been absolutely not negotiable in my life, but it was in yours. And I'm like, how does she even think this way? So I want to keep moving this story so that we could get there. But you gave birth to your first child on your own.
Yes. So she was born in the bathtub in the hotel room. I started to go into labor. So let me just say, I finished the birth and reproduction book that he made me read. And while I'm reading it, there was a page that said, the baby has to be effaced, which means turned upside down. So the head has to be down, facing the pelvic bowl, and the feet have to be up. And me knowing and understanding my body, and since I spent most of that pregnancy not able to stand and walk, I could feel that her feet were down and her head was up. So her head was
Breech. She was breech.
she was breech, and I knew that if the baby is born breech, the chances of both mother and baby dying are so high. And also the book was like saying, don't make sure that she's not breech. So I'm discovering this maybe at midnight one night, and I can feel that labor is around the corner. I didn't know how close, but I knew it was close. And I'm up reading this book, and I just started talking to my baby, and I said,
Wow.
I love you so much. I need you to turn upside down for mommy.
Wow.
You know, I need you to put your head down and your feet up. And so I just started massaging my belly in a clockwise motion. I didn't even know that it was supposed to be clockwise, but I'm just massaging my belly, and I'm thinking that I'm moving the fluid to help her turn. but I could feel that she was paying attention, and she was helping me turn her, and we turned her head upside down so that she could come out correctly. And I faced her at midnight. I fell asleep maybe at 2 a.m. I went into labor at 4 a.m.
Wow.
I started feeling,
God,
the contractions, but you read about like the fake contractions, and I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe this is the fake contractions. Oh no, it was not. It was not Braxton Hicks. Okay, this was the real deal. And I feel like for her, she was like, this information is fresh on your mind, mommy. Right. I'm turning in the right direction.
Wow.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's almost like him having you read the books, although it was like you were forced to do something you didn't want to do. It was also still like God using this, like you're going to need this information.
Yes. But isn't that in the Bible that everything that the devil intends for
evil,
bad,
will be
and
for my good,
is going to be for my good. And that's something I've carried that with me. And before I left out of the house every morning, I would say, I would pray this prayer: Lord, if you would go before me and order the steps of my path, and make sure I don't end up anywhere that I'm not supposed to be. So,
Jesus,
it's hard to tell this to people, but I was supposed to get kidnapped. It was a part of my story. It was a part of my journey. It's probably why I'm here with you guys in this podcast.
Yeah.
It was supposed to happen to me so that I would be able to help contribute in my own way to prevent it from happening to other women.
Absolutely.
Or, encourage women who've been through it, or, inspire people who probably would have, treated their child differently if they had not learned something, from what my experiences have been. It's hard to, I think about it, if I was in God's shoes, how do you tell your sweet little lamb, your sweet little Asia, oh, my sweet little lamb, you're only 6 years old, but I need you to witness your brother be born, because one day,
Jesus,
how do you start that that conversation? But I understand it now. I understand it's all a part of the design, and
Jesus,
that's trusting the process.
In episode 1, part 1 of this, you said you have to be careful with religion, because religion will condition you, and we were talking about that. And I felt when you said it, I'm like, this is why you have to have a relationship. It's not about religion. It's about having a relationship. And it's really only because you have a relationship with God that you understand that principle.
That's right.
You only understand this principle of it working for me and it all being connected because of your relationship with God.
Because before I was kidnapped, I was a good student of religion. I was a very good student of religion. I was the one that's like trying to wake my mom and my family up after, wake my siblings up after the Saturday night at the club to go to church in the morning. And, I'm bright and bushy-tailed and ready early at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And they're like, girl, if you don't close my door and get out my room, that was me. I was that huge student of it. But it's one thing to be learning it from the book. It's a totally different thing to walk it. To walk it. To
learn it through experience.
Yeah.
Have to depend on it.
Exactly. Because the stories in the Bible, those are, we consider them to be like old and antique and in antiquity. But this is what Sarah looks like, in modern day society. This is what Habakkuk or Job looks like, or in modern day society. Instead of casting down giants, like David did with a slingshot. Maybe your story is birthing unassisted, with all the odds stacked against you.
Jesus.
And in a society that has grown so accustomed to having, we have so much. We have so many tools to help us get through this and do that. Like, our water comes out of the faucet. I was thinking about this the other day. But for some people in the world, they have to walk 2 miles
to get water.
To get water. Just the water that you wash your fruits and
shower
wash your
with,
face
brush
with.
your teeth with.
Right. So
wow.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I was just thinking, because I have a daughter, and my husband and I, we're always like, Kobe's gonna be a beast. Kobe's gonna be a beast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I was molested for 10 years. So I'm just so overprotective of my child. Like, she's never been to daycare yet. Nobody watches her but my mom and my sister. So I'm super like overprotective of her. And Amber was saying earlier in episode 1 that like, you think sex trafficking or kidnapping looks a certain way. You're like, oh, well, that can never happen to me, or not my family, or that's other countries. But like, when you said what's not non-negotiable and negotiable for you was like spending time with your family and asking them about their relationships and their things. It's like, yeah, don't just talk to your daughter or your sister or your friend about, oh girl, how was your day? Oh, you went on a date with Paul? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Well, who was Paul? What does Paul do? Who does he hang around? Who is his family? Where does he live? Like, it just makes you start being more intentional about the people in your life and the interconnectivity of the relationships that you have. Like, really care about what someone has going on in their life. Really know who your child is hanging out with. Don't just drop your child off at someone's house because they're having a sleepover, they're having a birthday party. Go in and meet the parents, talk to the parents, see how they live, see what their religious life is like, what their relationship with God is like, how they interact with each other. Like, all those little nuances are so important, because it's like, I say this to Amber all the time, and I stand on this. You don't know people.
Yeah.
You don't know anybody, because people don't even know themselves.
Yes.
That's right.
People don't know themselves, and you think you know them.
Right.
Some people, there are people that don't even know themselves to the point where they don't even know that their patience is not strong enough to deal with children sometimes. Right. So people end up harming children because they didn't even know the limits of their patience.
Right.
You know.
Wow.
So they might not be a habitual abuser, but
in this scenario,
and my children are extremely intelligent, and I want to add something to what I said about the family time. Also, believe the child when they say something.
Yes.
Believe them when they say something. Because my daughter, she picks up on all children, honestly.
Energies.
They pick up on energies. They pick up on things that we are too concerned with ourselves to even our agendas, you know, might collide with the thing that they picked up on, you know, and we're like, well, I'm gonna bypass that because they might have been a little weird that day, but you know, I still need to get this project done, so I need to work with this person to XYZ. Yeah, right. But no, believe the children.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that, and I also make it my business. I have a 4-year-old, but when I pick him up from school, how was school? That was good. Okay, tell me about your day. And I make him give me details. Yeah. He talks to me about this one little boy. I said, really, what does he do? What does he say? Because I want to open up that dialogue so that he can tell me. I remember he was about, I don't even think he was 3 yet. And I let him be around some people, and I was getting him dressed, and he did something that was super off to me. I was like, why did you do that? And he said, oh, that's what such and such did. I said, excuse me? Yeah. And it was, and I was immediately, I went, hello? Excuse me. So let me talk to you real quick about what my 3-year-old just said that this person did. Because I'm not going to say, oh, that's cute. No, that came from somewhere. Right. You saw it. Somebody did it to you. Something happened. Where did that come from? I need to get to the root of it. And I think it's important, especially this day and age where everybody's on their phone. Yeah. I'll tell Ernestine, don't call me between 5:30 and 9 o'clock. I'm with my child. Because I need him to know that A, he has his mommy's attention. B, that he could talk to me about anything. I remember being so fearful when I was young to talk to my parents about what was really going on. And I heard something earlier today that said, in the Black culture, a lot of times when it's time to sit down and talk, I need to talk to you. We need to have a serious conversation. It's always about what that child did wrong. something that went wrong, instead of sitting down and praising them, letting them know what you did good, and B, just letting them talk. It's always like and it was kind of like that in my family. If the mood was like, okay, let's talk, I'm like, oh God, something happened. What?
Your heart is beating.
My heart's beating.
Anxiety.
Sweating.
Yes.
Yep. You're sweating behind your ears.
Still get anxiety. Someone says I need to talk to you. I'm like, oh Jesus, what about what?
You get this lump in your throat.
Yeah, you
Like,
start sweating. Your palms start sweating. Yeah.
But I said, I'm going to make it my business to say, Ernestine, I need to talk to you. I think you are so beautiful.
Thank
and
you, girl. I think you are
doing
too.
great. You know what I'm saying? I want to make that normal. And
we did that yesterday. We were on the phone and I was like, Amber, she was talking about something she's going through with Cairo. And I was like, you're a great mom. Like, you're a great mom. Like, don't let anybody tell you any different. Don't feel guilty about whatever, whoop-de-whoop. Because you have to hear those affirmations from your peers, from your family, from your spouse, from your mother. Yeah,
I know we kind of drifted
it shapes your confidence level.
Did you have like a lot of that from your mom?
Absolutely.
So that's probably what helped you get through.
Oh my gosh.
Too.
Yeah. I attribute the hugest part of my survival to my mother.
Jesus.
And I also want to say we can get our biggest strengths and our most vulnerable weaknesses from the same parent.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Absolutely. And usually that's the case.
That is definitely the case in my situation. So I have a huge father wound that I now acknowledge and understand that came from being raised by a single mother.
Yeah.
So I now understand it in terms of predators and people who prey on children. It's just like any other predator in the wild. They can sniff out somebody who would be a great candidate for you know.
What do you think the characteristics are of someone who's a great candidate?
Well, I can definitely speak on my behalf. I think this kidnapper, his son was coming to my house, and so he knew that my mother was a disabled parent, a disabled single parent, on dialysis. So he knew that there was not a lot of time spent. I didn't have a lot of people protecting me. And the son is going back and telling his father this. You know, her mom has kidney disease and she's dealing with this and she's had to take on a lot of
inside scoop on your guys' weaknesses.
He did.
Yeah.
She has had to take on a lot of responsibility in raising her younger siblings because of the disability. And then also I was a teenager, so of course I'm talking about this on the phone like, oh, you know, my sister just had a baby and I end up watching my niece all the time and she's a newborn baby. That was another thing that was going on. I had experience with babysitting and taking care of babies, even though they're not my babies. But people trusted me to babysit their kids and
wow.
You know, all of these things, he's just, in my mind, I believe.
He's taking notes.
He's taking notes.
Yeah.
He has studied. He's like,
he studied you.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
You know, basically, he had a plan.
Yeah.
He executed
it was all strategy.
The plan. And it was
we don't have a whole lot of time, so I want to get, speaking of your mom, I want to get to how you got through and what the relationship is now. So can you walk us through the day that you got free?
No, I can't actually, because I was 59 pounds.
Yeah.
I had been being starved. I don't know for how long. I was 21 years old.
And you had 2 children by this point.
By this point, I had 2 unassisted births, no medical assistance. When he first started to starve me, during my second pregnancy, I think his goal was to starve me so that the pregnancy would not go through.
Successful.
Be successful, right? Because he kept saying, you know, like I said, he had a strategy. So he stayed in the room. He sent his son to work. His son would go work, bring the money back, and he would, you know, pay the bills and take care of the room and stuff like that. But he kept impregnating us. So now, you know, 2 or 3 mouths to feed is now 6-7 mouths to feed in this one room. And he was like, I can't afford to take care of all these babies. But to him, you know, he was very mentally ill. So to him, he's like, y'all are having these babies on purpose to make it hard for me.
Wow.
And so he felt that he had the authority to try to starve me so that the baby would not come, you know, out. And so that I could have a miscarriage. But my daughter was determined to be here. And for the short time that she was here.
Yeah. That's okay.
She did an amazing job. She rescued so many people.
She freed you all.
Freed us, literally.
Yeah.
Literally. And she was only 14 months old.
So at 14 months, you were having complications, or she was having complications, and you got the opportunity to go to the hospital?
No. He started starving me when I was pregnant with her. So she was born. She was very tiny, and I was not even conscious for the second birth. The first birth, I was there 100%. I caught my daughter's head as she exited my womb. I caught the placenta in a country crock butter bowl. I cut the cord myself. I was, for the first birth, I did all the things, you know, that I could. The second birth, all I remember is her crowning. And I was so small and so starved. I didn't think that I know for a fact she had to be a premature birth.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I was even 5 months pregnant. I don't know how far along that pregnancy got before she was born. I felt her crowning, and I thought I was having uterine prolapse. Like, I thought my uterus was coming out. I didn't think that it was a whole baby, because it's too early. Like, a baby doesn't come out that early, I thought. And then also I'm very emaciated and disoriented, and so I remember, you know, when I woke up, she was already out of the womb. My vision was really bad at this time too, because of the starvation. So I didn't even really get a chance to see her and study her face. I don't even remember her entire life of her being here, having a chance to actually even hold her and behold her.
Nurture her.
I don't think I even got that chance ever. Because days after she was born, I know it was only days, because my milk came in right after you give birth. That's when your milk comes in. So she was born, and I was out of consciousness. And when I woke up, maybe like a day, it might have been the same day, there was finally, I saw these white people come into the room with a gurney. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God the hospital is finally, I'm finally getting to go to the hospital.
Jesus.
I'm excited, like, okay, but I'm not leaving here without both of my daughters.
Yeah.
My daughters have to come with me.
Yeah.
And it was not the hospital. It was a mental institution. And they were there serving what's called a 1014, which is an involuntary submission into the mental institution.
For who?
And I was being committed.
But who called them?
I have to assume there was only the kidnapper, the father.
This is right after you gave birth.
Yes, because my milk came in the mental institution.
So when you're in the mental institution, where's the baby?
Well, she's with
them.
So let me just help you understand. They came in, and they as they routinely do, they're asking me, do you know where you are, who you are? Do you know what year it is? I didn't know the year. I didn't know who was the president. I got all the questions wrong that they asked me except for what my name was. And I was like, no, you have to listen to me. Okay, I'm irate and screaming, and this is a lot, right? I was like, this man kidnapped me, okay? This man kidnapped me, and I can't leave here without my babies. I can't leave here without my kids.
Jesus.
And they're like, well, ma'am, you don't have a choice, and if you don't calm down, we're going to have to sedate you. And they sedated me because I would not get on the gurney. Once I realized they were a mental health institution, I was like, no, I can't leave. I can't leave. If y'all are not the hospital and y'all not going to let me take my baby with me, I can't leave here because I can't leave my babies with these people.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a social worker, maybe a hospital worker, not these people. I can't, because I don't know if I will be coming back to the baby. He's been trying to kill us this whole time, right? So
how did they not recognize? How did they not walk into this room and see you this big and not, because you clearly went back at some point, right?
They will only, the mental institution would not release me to anyone else. I begged for them to release me to my mother, my family.
How long were you in the mental institution?
I don't know for sure. The paperwork says it was about 2 weeks.
And you couldn't call your mother? At this point, you didn't know how.
Right. I tried to call the number that, what I remembered of her number.
You last remembered, yeah.
Of her number, and I didn't get her.
And how many years was
they had a phone inside the mental institution ward. It was a pay phone, so you had to have money. You had to put quarters in it, and I would use the quarters. You also had to have quarters to do your laundry, right? So I would use the quarters for my laundry to try to make calls. But once I couldn't get anybody on the phone, I had to just keep doing my laundry, because they only let you out if you're showing signs of being normal, so to speak. So if you don't wash your clothes, if you don't eat your food, if you don't like exercise,
look like you belong into society, and
exactly.
Like,
if you don't, if you act like you're crazy, they're gonna keep you in there as long as they can. But if you act like you're not crazy, because everybody is telling them I don't belong here and I'm not.
Yeah,
crazy.
Everyone's saying.
That's I
trust and believe me. No, I was kidnapped. No, everyone's saying the same story.
Oh my God! I went in there saying like, no, that might not be the case for everyone else, but you have to understand. You know, I was a 4.0 GPA. I know this. I know that. I'm not supposed to be here. I cannot take these psychotropic medications because I don't need them, and my body can't handle them.
You were forced to take them.
Because if you don't take the medicine, they're going to assume that you're crazy.
Yeah.
And that you belong here, and you have to continue taking the medicine and continue eating the food. And
we don't have a whole lot of time. This is really like a 5-part series, but I want to get to like how you got free. Like, let us know when, like, how did everything come to a fold?
By this time, I've returned from the mental institution. When I was in the mental institution, I was so terribly engorged. They didn't give me a breast pump, so I had to manually express all the milk in the shower.
Oh my God.
And I had the milk spoil in my body. I went through a lot. I had several breast infections. So by the time I'm back in the room, and they pumped me full of all these psychotropic medications, right? So I'm back in the room, and also my captor is extremely pissed at me because as I was, the day they were releasing me, they kept telling me, you have to speak to the person that's higher than me to let you out. So I finally got to the highest up person, and he did not tell me that he had the captor on speakerphone listening to everything that I was saying. And he was ready to sign the paperwork to release me, but he kept saying, I can't release you to your mother. I can't release you to your grandmother. I can't release you to nothing, to jail. You know, I have to release you to the person who had you committed. And I did not know why. What authority did this man have?
Yeah.
And, you know, this whole time he's telling me the power of his cult and this group of people, the Nubians, and how much power they have in society. And all I can attribute it to is, oh my God, like, does he really have this kind of control and power because of this religion that they have some kind of side deal worked out? I later found out that he just lied on some paperwork, and because that institution was not thorough in their check, he lied and said that he was a physician and a psychotherapist, and he gave a diagnosis, and they did not check his medical reference number, or he must have had.
There's so many lawsuits in this story.
I mean, right? I was just sitting here thinking, so many.
So basically, he lied, and somebody did not catch it.
And you get back to him,
right? And I'm in the room,
okay,
and he's saying, you cannot breastfeed your daughter. You have medicine in your body. You got infections. You got this. But really, he's just mad because he heard everything that I said. And so, you know, the facade that I had built for years of trying to get him to do reverse psychology on him so he could trust me to release me into the world, you know. I had to play a part almost every day. You know what? You're not that crazy, you know, and what you're doing to me it's not that bad. You know, if you can trust me enough to let me go out and earn money, I'll bring the money back and help take care of the kid. You know, I had to survive.
You had to play. Yeah.
Did he let you?
No. No. There was times where he tried to like when he had money, when he didn't have any money, there was one time where he tried to ransom me and get my family to send me money. So he escorted me to a payphone one time to try to get them to Western Union some money. So, you know, I was feeling like at times throughout this captivity that maybe I might be able to do this. Maybe I might be able to convince him to just let me go. But that was before there were children involved.
Yeah. How much longer were you there before you got free?
I want to say almost a year.
Another year.
Oh, it was another year.
It was about
the baby was
8 or 9 months. Because when she was born, I was committed into the mental institution days after she was born. And so by the time I was rescued, she was 14 months old. 14 months, yes. Over a year.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? How did you get free?
Well, I just want to say, when I came from the mental institution, he would not let me breastfeed my daughter. And I remember he had everybody sitting on the floor. So my then 2-year-old, the other children, he had everybody sitting on the floor in a circle. And I could barely sit up. Like, I kept falling over. And I remember he had a plate of food in front of me, and it was like a salad. That was the last thing I remember eating until after I was rescued and in the hospital, but catatonic.
But when you said that was a whole year, almost a year.
Right.
So you were starved. So you weren't getting anything? How does that?
That was the last meal, I should say, that I remember eating. I remember he would force feed me and give me water, but I didn't know the water had like herbs in it. It had like nerve relaxer herbs, and there's no telling what else it had in there. But
Jesus. So you basically this year you're in a trance. You're just existing at this point.
Exactly. You when you're starving, you can't hold on to thoughts. You know?
Yeah.
Every moment that you have some consciousness, you better do whatever you can, whatever energy you have and whatever consciousness you have in that moment, act on it immediately, because it's not going to last, because you don't have enough energy to function your full body and your consciousness. The first thing that goes is your mind.
Yeah.
And then you're like in your reptilian brain, just trying to get energy for food.
Out of anything.
To survive.
Yeah.
Right. And so, Yeah.
So
I will go in and out of consciousness all the time.
Jesus. What was your mind going through? Like, when you knew this, okay, this is the moment I'm about to be free. What did that look like?
Oh no, that never came.
Yeah.
Because I'm starving at this point. And you know, he was giving me water and
no, I'm talking about when you actually when it was over. Walk us through, like, when it's finally over.
She was saying she doesn't remember. She doesn't recall that. So
I want to say maybe after I came out of catatonia, which was 7 months after the day that I was rescued.
Got you.
So tell us how you were rescued. I know you don't remember, but I know this story.
Well, I know the story from what my family has told me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he had been starving me. He started starving me first, but then eventually, you know, as I got to this really progressed point, at some point he started starving the children too.
Yeah.
And I believe that his goal was to starve everybody to death, probably dump us off, dump our bodies somewhere, and then probably go on with his daughter and his son and start a new life, because, you know, too much had happened to rewind the clock, right? Yeah. And so it just so happened that my daughter passed away first. And I would be begging, even, you know, in and out of consciousness, I would be begging, please let me feed my baby. Please let me, let me hold my baby.
Yeah.
You know, he kept saying, his daughter was breastfeeding her and that somehow she still had milk, but her baby, her son was like two years old at this point. You can't still produce milk that late into it. But he said, you know, she's feeding her. You can't feed her. You can't feed her because of the drugs and stuff like that. And so she passed away first. She never, you know, love is so nutritious. And I think a lot of what contributed to her passing away, I never got to hold her. I never got to breastfeed her.
You didn't get to love on her.
I didn't get to love on her. You know, they kept her away from me, and they starved me of her and her of me, and she died first.
Jesus.
And when she died,
I'm sorry.
He took her to the emergency room. She was more than 3 hours post-mortem. He took a post-mortem 14-month-old into the emergency room and said, please help me. Something is wrong with my baby. And thank God for those Black women that was behind that desk, because they was like, sir, I would have been born at night, but I was not born last night. This baby, they took, of course, you know, they examined her and stuff. And
how much does she weigh?
She weighed 7 pounds.
At 14 months.
They said she looked like a newborn, a premature newborn.
Jesus.
They said she had several broken bones that had rehealed.
Jesus.
And it was obvious, you know. And they said, well, we know you didn't give birth to this baby. So they said, if you don't tell us where the mother is,
calling the cops,
we're going to hold you here until the police come. And so they like, you pick a flavor, you know. Either you're going to tell us where the mother is, or you're going straight to jail. And he gave them the address to the hotel, and the police was able to break into the room, and they rescued us. They said the first thing they noticed was the other children crying, you know, my firstborn, and the other children from his daughter. They were like, they said the people in the hotel said they cried day and night. They cried day and night, and nobody could do anything. Nobody ever did anything. They just thought it's just a hotel and this is what you get. They said the baby started walking up to them, complete strangers and police people in police gear. Like, please
take us,
feed me, do help.
And you're out of it.
I am wrapped up naked in a sheet, prepared for burial. They said if they had come 8 hours later, I would have been dead. Jesus. And they would have buried me.
And tell us again how much you weighed when they found you.
59 pounds.
And you were 21.
21 years old. They said I weighed less than a fourth grader.
From 17 to 21, you were held in captivity. You were raped. You were abused. You gave birth to children.
I was committed into the mental
committed into a psych ward.
Will. There were so many instances where society failed me.
Oh, so many. I mean, I counted 100 in just this short period of time.
So many.
You are owed so much.
That's what I have in common with other women who have experienced sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. Because when I hear the crazy things that people have gone through, I know what it feels like to be failed so many times.
Jesus.
Somebody could have said something.
Yeah.
Somebody could have said, that didn't look right.
Yeah.
Or are you sure that she's not telling the truth? Somebody could have believed me when I said something.
Yeah.
Somebody could have just stopped for a moment, stop doing your job, stop doing the routine, and say, maybe this situation, is not what we deal with on a daily basis. Maybe there's something out of the ordinary in this situation. Let me do some research, or let me just dig a little bit into this person.
Yeah.
It was just so many areas
where you were failed.
Even afterwards.
Oh, Jesus.
Even afterwards, it's worse.
This is like a 5-part. This is like a 5-part interview, and it's just like, Jesus, like your story has to be told. I'm so grateful that you are here, even telling I know this is a small inkling of a portion of what this 4 years look like.
Right.
I want to ask you a question that I was kind of referring to earlier about things that were non-negotiable that are negotiable now. I'm not sure if I heard this through a clip I saw or whatever, but you said that your baby saved your life. How are you not angry at God? How do you live day by day by day? Because I hear stories. I remember losing my mom. There was a moment I was angry with God. Yeah. How do you live every day and not say, God, why did you let this happen to me? Why did you let this happen to my babies?
I'm going to be honest with you. When I did come out of catatonia, which was miraculous within itself.
Can you let us know what catatonia is for those of us who don't know?
So catatonia is like a vegetable-like state. When I was rescued, I was so starved that my body did not have enough energy resources to supply my brain and my consciousness and keep my heart beating and, keep my digestive system functioning. It had to prioritize. And I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I didn't have voluntary facial movements. My family said that I couldn't hold my mouth closed, so I would just like drool. Jesus. I couldn't use the bathroom on my own. I had a diaper. But the starvation did that to me, as well as when I finally got to the hospital after being rescued, there was a error on the part of the medical staff, because since I was so small, they were supposed to only give me, they had to do MRIs and check the insides of my body and stuff like that and make sure everything else was in order, and it was just starvation. And they're looking for like blood clots and all kinds of stuff. And they gave me a 21-year-old's dose of radiography syrup, what they use to look at your internal organs.
Yeah, when you do an MRI.
Right, but they should have done it based on
the size that you were and the energy level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I had been starved. So that sent me into a deep catatonia, because my mom said when when they rescued me, it just so happened that one of the officers, he saw this lump, of wrapped up sheets and blankets, and and knew that there was a person in there, but everybody thought that I was a corpse.
Jesus.
And he said that something told him to just check my pulse and see if I was alive, and I had a very faint pulse.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got to the hospital and they gave me that contrast,
it almost took you out.
It almost took me out. I almost died. But my mom said that, at first I wasn't, when they first started to refeed me, I didn't fully make sense, but I was like babbling and I was emoting, and like when I saw people, I was trying to talk like, it didn't make sense, but I was at least responding, and I was at least trying to communicate. But after that contrast, it was just like, I was brain dead.
It makes me so angry that Black women are so just overlooked, unseen, unheard. Like, there were so many times in this story where the system failed you, where just basic human decency failed you. Like, the people, I just can't, just for the life of me, the cleaners, the people who worked at the hotel, just bystanders, cars, like just so many people who were involved, the mental institution, like so many people, places, and things that were involved in this equation that you were failed. It makes me so angry. And Black women go through it daily.
Every day.
Daily. Jesus. We have to wrap this up.
Wait,
but
I want to get back to my question.
What was the question?
I asked you, how do you survive? How do you get through the day without being angry with God?
I didn't. Mm-hmm. I'll just be real. I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Do you now?
No. Mm-hmm. I understand so much now. But after first being rescued, I had a vendetta with God. I had a vendetta with Christianity. I felt like everybody's lying. Everybody's full of it. And nothing is real, that I grew up learning. Because y'all did not show up as who y'all said that y'all were.
Yeah.
Jesus, I called on you so many times.
Jesus.
I called on you from the day that locked in that closet. I called on you. I got on my knees. I did everything they said I should do. I emptied my heart out. I tried to find the good in the situation. I did all the things that y'all told me to do, and it did not have the results that y'all said was going to happen. My mom never bust through that door with the police and said, free my baby from this captivity. It never happened. My newborn that I never got a chance to hold had to free me. So yes, I was angry. I was angry for the first year, 2 years almost. And I didn't consider myself Christian for a little while, especially when I found out that my daughter had died. I was angry, even though I was telling people, I'm okay. I'm not in that situation anymore. Things are better. But internally, I was angry, and I was blaming it on that higher power until I started to learn to separate religion and spirituality. And also a very huge step for me was understanding autonomy and learning to take responsibility, to really own your autonomy, right? Because in captivity, you're not autonomous. Somebody else controls everything. Your coming, your going, your waking, your sleeping, your food, and your drinking, your everything.
Jesus.
Right. So I developed a deep appreciation for being able to say, I'm not eating that. I'll eat this. I'm going to eat.
That is
I'm going to bathe myself now.
That's deep.
I'm going to go to sleep now. Right?
Things you take for granted that we all take for granted daily. When we can go to the bathroom. I choose when I go to the bathroom.
Right. You get to choose who gets to be in the bathroom, if anybody.
Wow.
Right? So that anger, once I understood what autonomy was, I realized that through religion and through, just like conditioning of society, we put a lot of responsibility on God and our Savior and whoever we believe in, that really actually belongs to us.
Yeah.
And that helped me resolve the anger. Once I realized that God is not just like sitting in the clouds, watching me go through my everyday life, waiting for an opportunity to save me, waiting to throw a blessing, into my path, waiting for me to mess up so he can punish me, because that whole time I was like, what am I being punished for? What did I do? I didn't even get a chance to start, making my own decisions. I'm just a kid,
Jesus.
And so I thought I was being punished at first for not listening to my mom when she said, there's something about these people that's not right. And I was like, dang, this is a really harsh, extreme punishment. Like, God,
wow.
Like, bro.
Wow.
So you didn't have to go this far.
Yeah. It's like, I get it. I got it.
Right.
I got the lesson.
But once I realized that's not that. Our Creator creates us. And just as any creator, human or otherwise, or deity, creators, they go on and create other things.
Yeah.
So I now believe that God created me, but then also, he utilized my ancestors for me to be here, and he created them and so on and so forth. And he probably went off to another universe and created some more people and did some other stuff. But he's not just like micro focused on my one little life.
Jesus.
It's not that deep.
So,
Jesus.
So your kidnapper is in jail, and this is my last question. Have you forgiven him?
This is the question that I get all the time. It's the hardest question because everybody has a different interpretation of what forgiveness looks like.
Yeah.
And why is there even a necessity for me to forgive him?
Why?
Because me forgiving him, it won't do anything in terms of, his existence.
Right.
Me forgiving him would be for me.
Right. And that's what I was going to say.
So really the question I think is, have I forgiven myself?
Yeah.
Yes. For having, had that interaction. And I think it really comes down to, I am proud of what I did in that captivity.
Yeah.
I am proud of what I endured and how I reacted and responded to that level of brutality. And
Jesus.
so there's nothing to forgive.
Yeah.
He did not have the power in that situation because I am at peace with the decisions that I made.
That's good.
And I am at peace with, still finding the ability to love those children, even though I was being tortured every day. Love those children in that situation. And those children know love. My children know love. Even my daughter, who I never got to hold and express my love to her, just being in that room with me, I think she felt my longing and my yearning to hold her and love her, and it permeated throughout that room. So
Jesus.
She didn't die as cold as she would have if I hated him so much that I could not love her.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I love all those babies. I love my daughter, even though I didn't choose to procreate with him. I love her, and I would do anything for her, as if she was, just like her sister, who I did choose to procreate with, her father, my now husband. So
I think that's the beautiful part of this whole story is you're now married. You have a child that you had.
So I think that is like a living testimony to the forgiveness, because one black man is every black man, and no black man is the same, right? So, what happened to me, I went through periods of hating my father for not protecting me and being in my life, and this predator was able to sniff me out because you weren't here.
Jesus.
And but I've since, forgiven my father, because I don't know what was in his life going on that made it to the point where he couldn't be there. And what if he was a father like the captor. Maybe it was to my benefit that he wasn't in my life. What if he was, the wrong type of father? I just think everything is everything. It was supposed to happen the way that it did.
So strong-minded of you to think that way. Like, I'm honestly appalled at how strong your character is, and how gracious you are, and how like you're not. It doesn't seem these few short hours. It doesn't seem that you're hardened by it. You know what I mean? It didn't harden your heart. Right. And when the book of Romans says perseverance produces good character, and you persevered through all that, and it produced great character in you, great fruit in you. So I'm excited to continue to learn about your journey. I hate that we have to end this. We really needed you for like a 7-part series. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. This is needed. It was a blessing.
Yeah.
And we're praying with you and for you.
Absolutely. And I hope that everyone who watched this episode, especially those of you who have daughters, who have sisters, who have cousins, who have friends, like, let this episode and her testimony be a testament to how we communicate with each other, how we are invested in each other's lives, and the relationships in our lives, and how we are paying attention to the nuances, and to not have the mindset of this can't happen to me, or this can't happen to people I know. That literally this happened right here in Atlanta on a MARTA, the same MARTA that I've taken several times to go to Falcons games, the same MARTA people take to go to work every day, or young girls take to go to school. It's like, don't adopt a mindset like this can never be you, because it could have been any one of us. And I have the word of the day today, and I'm going to close us out with the word endure. Just like thinking of everything that you went through, and thinking of the definition of endure is literally to suffer. And you suffered. But the second part is to suffer but still remain in existence.
And can I add to it?
To my word of the day?
Yes, ma'am. Because I was gonna continue from last week, and I prevail is what comes to mind, which means to prove more powerful than the opposing forces, to be victorious. So last week was overcome, but you didn't just overcome, you prevailed.
That one hit me.
Yes, you prevailed. And I'm like, you are victorious.
Man, we know life and death lies in the power of the tongue. So we are intentional about what we speak, the words that we sow. Like you said earlier, be careful, like, who's feeding you? What's feeding you? What you're listening to, what you're watching, the types of conversations you're entertaining, what music you're listening to, what food you're really putting into your body. Like, what is feeding you controls you. So make sure that you actually are controlling what is feeding you, and it's not controlling you. So this has been a phenomenal episode. Jesus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like, that's all I can say is thank you. Yes. And to our audience, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned from this. I hope this sowed a seed into all of you all, and we will see you back next week on another episode of It's Negotiable. Thank you.